again. My YouTube stream. But yeah, it is incredible. I mean, even when I have Wi-Fi issues, that works 9 out of 10 times. Right, PC stuff. Thank you, Ivis, for the head pat. Thank you, thank you. Always appreciated. I want to turn off that. There we go. You know, I keep seeing up in the corner, when I go to start stream, I'm seeing vertical, like set up vertical streaming, and it's been something I've been meaning to do for a while on OBS, and then figure out how to stream to both YouTube and Twitch. Now Twitch has vertical streaming, so I really should take this weekend to just figure out, get that set up, and have it nice and like presented. At least for reading. I think it would be very easy to do a reading vertical stream. I don't think there's much that really needs to, you know, be done there. ASMR is probably okay as well. What else? What else would be good? Runs in with snackies and blanket. Hello, Ravens. Welcome in, welcome in. As I say, see you. How are you? I hope you've been doing well. And hello. Oh, wait, no, I said hi to Casey. Is there no Morrowind this week? Can you turn off the music when you start reading? There may be Morrowind this week. I'll see. I'll see. I was kind of deciding. And I will turn off the music, don't worry. Remind me if I don't. I will, and I do plan actually to start reading a little bit earlier today, because there's a good bit more to get through than a normal reading stream, so I want to try and get the book done today. We're on the last stretch, like 25 pages, we'll get there. Even today I was like, do I do the last reading stream? And I was kind of like, yeah, let's do it. And then I was like, will I do Morrowind? Will I do, oh yeah, I have the campfire in the background. I definitely would do, I definitely will do what you called, the fire sound. The fire sound, yeah. I would like to see more Morrowind today. Well, I'm sure there's a Morrowind streamer somewhere. There's usually like 1 or 2. Okay, hit Control, Shift, and Enter, and go to the Details tab. Look for if program name is there. If it is, select it and hit End Task. Button on its bottom right. Yeah, that one. It'll ask you if you're sure, and you gotta say yes. You gotta click yes on the button yes. Because in some situations, you don't want to end the task if it's doing stuff. But anyway, if you could just hit yes for me, yeah, no, it's safe, I'm sure. I want to throw myself off a bridge, but I'm just thinking about it. Oh, poor Dixie. I can only imagine dealing with, like... I don't know. I'm not, like, an expert in computers or anything like that. I know some basic things, and I can kind of troubleshoot stuff a lot myself. Unless you try and troubleshoot something, and it's like, you need administrator, agreement to do this. And then you're like, well... I'm not... This is a work thing. And then you're stuck there. Hugs, it will be okay. I hope. Yeah, I'm sure Dixie... I think you said in the past, so I don't know if you're still doing IT stuff. Thank you for the 3 stream watch streak, Ravens. Like some boomer that earns 3 times your salary being amazed you can drop down numbers in Excel. I remember one time I had like was it a pivot table? I think it was like a proper pivot table. Or it was something like that anyway. It was a well-formatted table, and I was using... I think it was a pivot table, and then I was using like... What are they called again? Sliders or cutters or something? You know, where you can have basically the filter buttons like on screen for yourself to do stuff. And that was like... They were very impressed with that. Hello, cute, adorable Fluffy. Thank you, Dragon. That's very kind of you. I try and be... cute, adorable, and fluffy. So to know I'm all 3 is excellent. Can't just be 2. I mean, if you're cute but you're not adorable, then like you're not trying hard enough. If you're adorable but you're not fluffy, yeah, you can do that. But if you're fluffy but you're not cute, then there's something wrong there. I think you might just be like a bug, like a hairy bug. There's your mistake. You told them about it. The good strat would have been to faff about 7 hours of the day and then macro for 1 hour to finish off the workday. I don't know. No, Casey, don't pinch me. Don't pinch me. Don't pinch me. No pinch. No pinch. Get off. Damn you, Haru. Damn you. Pinch isn't working? It did. It did work, Casey. I don't know. I definitely saw the pinch on the face. Bedtime stories. I that's one thing I need to look at. I need to look at like VBA and some other stuff. Good night. Oh, good night, Casey. Did the pinch? I'm pretty sure the pinch worked. I saw the hand. I don't know if maybe you missed it. I'm not too sure. Hopefully it's okay. But I do need to learn a bit more about like macros and so like power pivot and some of the more like complicated No, I'm saying complicated. Maybe it's very simple. But thank you, Hawu, for the 85 stream watch streak. Amazing. Ooh. I'm parasocials again. Is that because Sasaviu came back? I saw him last night I realized that he was being more active in his Discord last night. But I didn't want to intrude because I was very tired and I wanted to go EPs. But I'll have to pop in and say hello. And I can be like, look, Sasa, I hit 1,000 followers while you were away. And I have like maybe like 10 average viewers. Aren't you proud of me? I bullied him. I love it. What the fuck? I'm sorry. You're only allowed bully me. Who do you think you are? Excuse me? You're bullying another man, Haru? What the fuck? Who do you think you are? You're banned from this channel. Hello, son, and hello, aeronaut. I know a good bedtime story. Once there was an ugly barnacle. He was so ugly that everyone died. The end. Wasn't that SpongeBob? Hello, aeronaut. I went from IT support to system admin at a large company, and they pivoted to penetration. I almost said penetration testing. Penetration testing, and now I don't think I can legally tell you my exact job. Oh, very cool. Very cool. Very cool. I could tell you guys the exact thing that I do, but I wouldn't be able to disclose any details because it's top secret. It's not. It is technically very classified, but like not classified. Confidential is the word I'd use. I went from retail to unemployed to retail to unemployed. Excellent. Good job, son. Proud of you. You get those neat bucks. I cheated. My bad. I know you did. How dare you? Hi, Raven. What? Hi, Lila. What? How? Ruadh could tell us the exact thing he does, but he won't because he hates us. Exactly. I hate you guys, so I don't want to tell you that information. Same boat. I'm just unemployed. Oh, Haru. You get a job. You'll get a job that's not fucking working in the middle of the night and isn't like, here's your interview. Oh, by the way, the day of your interview, it's getting cancelled. I can't bully you about balding when you're not balding. Are you? Or are you? Well, I think it's okay right now. There was like a little bit of receding, but it hasn't really moved much in the last like year or so, or like 2 years. So I think it's okay. Is Sasa balding though? You're like white. You're gonna be bald. What? What do you mean, like, you're like white? Oh, you mean Walter White? Is that what you mean? Because I've seen a lot of like bald black people before. No, I'm just like telling him that he's balding. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, make fun of Sasa for that. Unemployed, looking for a job, but no one wants me while I'm getting stuff done on my back. That's tough. I hope you manage to get something soon, Ravens. But I do like make less money now. I kind of start feeling about scamming people over the phone to do that contract work their own company hired me for. Sometimes people got fired over their mistakes. Oh, I get you, Dixie. Yeah, like if they fail if they have like multiple instances or even one instance of like a serious fuck up on a training, you know, you send an email and they click the email and oh, that could have been that you could have hacked them through that, and now you would have access to all the company private data. You know, it's not going to look great on them. It's not going to look great on them. Sometimes, so I almost got caught on that once. And what it was it just so happened to coincide with me having done something that was kind of related to what they sent me to it. I got into a bank vault of sorts. Biggest achievement. Good job, Dixie. Can you do that IRL and give me half the money for doing nothing? You should do that and then make the bank sub to me. Make the bank buy me like 5,000 gift subs. I think that's fair. I work in human resources field training. I'm collecting data on prospective hires by immersing myself in their specific environments. So I gave up. I do miss legally breaking into buildings, though. Dixie, when you're like breaking into buildings, though, is it like, because I've heard that like certain things like some card readers and stuff are very easy to do, like very easy to get through. I'll make fun of you too when your receding hairline. Oh, beat your ass. It's not receding, it's maturing, as the copers always say. It's a widow's peak. It's maturing. Dixie's a niffler from magical creatures. Get the gold. But yeah, we doing. I'm glad to see the Snake Man back. I kind of only realized because you were like the snaky in the wagey cagey, and I was like, wait a minute, is she talking about Sasa? Is he planning on getting back into streaming, or is he just like, is he busy making all the money as a lawyer? Breaking into a building that they have a 7-digit passcode lock, but the only number they worn out on the keypad is 0. No, I'm imagining Dixie like walks into a building with just like a yellow vest, or like a what do they call it again? Like a workman's vest. Maybe a hard hat, but that might be pushing it a little bit, and a clipboard. And he just walks in, and like you just walk up to like a door with a key card, and you're like, oh shit, where? And you're just like pretending that you don't have it. You're like, could you let me in there? You gotta think simpler. I once disguised myself as a pest exterminator. Told the reception about rats potentially eating cables, and she just gave up the key to the server room? Oh man. Come on, the first thing you should be doing is checking to see if that's scheduled or any kind of communication on that. Damn. I am very bad. You know what I'm very bad for? I'm very bad for forgetting. He's busy as fuck. I don't think he's coming back anytime soon. Okay, that's okay. He won't steal you away from me. That's okay. I missed him so much. It's been 2 years. I'm glad he's back in the Discord though. It's nice to see him. I'll have to pop in and say that's okay. This does come after weeks of some rumors about rats on Facebook targeted towards her. What the fuck, Dixie? What the fuck? What are you talking about? Do you? Oh, that's freak. That's scary, Dixie. That's like genuinely creepy, dude. You got paid to stalk a woman, send her rats? Dude, you send her... You just constantly send her fucking rat images. It's called OSINT. What is this? Let me look this up. OSINT. Open source intelligence. Collecting, analyzing publicly accessible data. Actionable intelligence. Whoa. That's crazy. That poor lady. Dude, that's fucked up. I wonder if she got like a pet rat after that. You should pop in and be like, hey, did you ever get a pet rat? Oh wait, sorry, Harry, I forgot to allow those. I forgot to allow you calling me names. I was shocked about Dixie fucking conditioning some poor secretary for rats. To just accept. And then looking for an entry point. We had a whole office team. That is incredible, Dixie. I'm sorry, I know this is meant to be ASMR, but this is the chatting portion of the stream. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Liz, for the hydrate. Oh god. I always hear the computer noise, and it's just part of the audio that I recorded when I was recording Genzuki's thing. Working to crack the business. So I should be very careful if I'm ever like posting things about events that I'm going to. I'm not really someone who posts a lot of stuff anyway. But like if I was like posting, I'm going to this convention or I was working with XYZ, you know, you gotta be safe from actual thieves unless you hire people to go 110%. That's so true, actually. Sometimes I think about going into buildings, posing as a plumber, and then filling their pipes with concrete. Son, I think you would get very much arrested for that. How do you target rat rumors? Hello, Laughs a Lot. At a person on Facebook. I assume. Hello, Sochi. Thank you for the head pat. Thank you, thank you. The report writing was 80% of the job and was tedious as hell, though. I imagine. There's probably so much. But it sounds like the other 20% was a lot of fun. Was it kind of like good fun in the office then? That were you guys sitting around a computer being like, dude, I found this really funny rat meme. I'm gonna send it. Or I'm gonna send this Warhammer 40k Skaven meme at her. The downside to min-maxing into OPSEC is you end up a low. Oh my god. It was good fun for us, the CEO and the security head. Oh yeah, because they'd all know. The CEO and security head, I guess, would be aware of it happening. Although I think it... Oh my god. Oh my god. Hello, Spriggan. Hello, Spriggan. As I see you, the garden is raiding. We're here to plant ourselves in chat. That's a really good raid message. That's way better than mine. Hello, zombie chicken. Although... You know, I feel like plants raiding would go very slowly. But let me do a quick shout out. What were you up to today, Spriggan? What were you doing? Everyone, welcome in raiders. My name is Ruadh. Thank you for the head pat, Cass Seraph. What were you doing? My name is Ruadh, half human, half Tuatha. Doing a little bit of reading today. Well, we will be in a moment. I'm just doing some chatting first. We're chatting about how Dixie here in chat is used to mentally manipulated a woman. That sounds really bad, but listen, it was his job. That sounds worse, actually. It was legal, I promise. Mentally conditioned a woman into associating with rats, and then posed as an exterminator, a pest exterminator. You were part of it, Dixie, to get into, like, to test the company's security systems. Those are the only people who would know. Would they ever do it where, like, the CEO wouldn't know, like just the security head would be like, I want you guys to test the CEO and like other stuff, or would that be like you're endangering your own job at that stage? Fellow FF14 player, Yahoo. We did some Final Fantasy 14 and we did art. Ooh, I hope your art went well. I hope your art went well, Spriggan. That's crazy. Listen, I may have worded it in the worst way possible, but that is effectively. You were just the infiltration guy. You were Agent 46. You were Agent 46. Can confirm I was the rats. No shot. He does not have the authority to call that. Ah, okay. I see. It was good. Nice little warm-up and little bit of a commission. Ooh, I hope it's turning out well. I hope you're getting through. I hope you're getting that money, Spriggan. I'll be getting that money. Guys, go check out Spiggins commissions, whatever she's doing. Probably some nice art, no doubt. And also Haru, go check out Haru Wren in chat. Her commissions too. She did a cute chibi. She did a really cute chibi that I posted on the tweeters. Let me show you guys. The cute art that she did for me. Where is it? Fan art. It's technically not fan art. This is commissioned art, so it doesn't count. But look, look at me and Daya. Look at how cute. Look how cute that is. Look how cute that is. Free advertisement. Exactly, Haru. If you guys would like to commission your own cute chibi, or maybe, I think it was bust up portraits, reach out to Haru. Spriggan is a good artist. He's adorable. Trying. I believe in you, Spriggan. Canon Yaoi on stream. Wild. Canon Yaoi. No, me and Daya are friends. We good friends. But it is really cute, isn't it? I wanted to get some... I want to get more art of like me and my friends. Also, hi Aisteen. Hi Legend. Hands dangerously near holding. It's resting, okay? It's just resting. But it's so cute. I like how I'm kind of like half asleep. I'm kind of like just waking up like, oh, what's going on? And then Daya just has like a cute little, he literally just has like a little that. And they were roommates. Exactly. I was tempted to. Doesn't that cost extra though? No, Haru would just do that type of stuff for free because she's a yaoi connoisseur. You come equipped with a legal document on your person signed by the CEO in case the cops get called and you gotta do the interrogation and convince them that the documents are real and sometimes get arrested and have them work it out at the station. This means that the company did a good job and the company pays the tab, not the taxpayer. Oh yeah. Because there'd be oh wow, there must have been a lot of work around like compliance and ensuring everything was above board. Man, that sounds crazy. It sounds really cool to be involved in. BL comic when? It's a whole mess on you. If anyone would like to draw BL comics of me, I'm always down for fan art. It doesn't have to just be BL, by the way. It can be like women too, please. It can be women too. You guys have seen the art that I've gotten. I did both genders. Just yaoi. Yaoi is something I scream when I close my hand in the door. Nah, you said BL, you're getting BL. This is so unfair. No Heatherua. Heterua. There's also rules of engagement. You can't just steal a bulldozer and knock down the wall into the file room. That defeats the point. Dixie planning out a GTA 5 tier heist for like $20 and a Snickers bar just to make sure their penetration is like on point. I imagine it was probably rules of engagement. Yeah, if I could get better engagement. What am I talking about engagement? I don't post any alternative content for people to interact with. The mission objective is get in. They set the rules. Wow. Quest rewards be like, listen. No, don't grab my chest, sir. No, get your hand off of me. Get your hand off of me. It's not fair. Get your head off my chest. Do that dang YouTube shorts, please. I was talking to Q about that earlier. Let me support you, Diva. I love that. Frey. I love that. That like very explicit flirt comment. I love that. But I have been looking at shorts. I at least asked Q about it. I'm gonna ask Daya. I might ask. I think I asked Schlimbo about it before, so I'm definitely going to see if he can help as well. And the issue with me and shorts is that I just don't know where to start them and end them. And it takes a lot of time to go through your videos. You have to like download them, and like it takes up so much space. But I probably should get into it like properly, because it would be, you know, very, very good for my channel if I was regularly posting shorts. Cause like, I don't know, I feel like we do have some very fun moments on chat. When we're just chatting. Post you in shorts. Post me in shorts. Yeah, that's what I should get, like a only shorts outfit. That's what I should get. Boxer short posting. No boxer. He's not on about actual shorts. No, I'm on about like YouTube shorts and like TikTok. But I don't want to that's the only thing. I don't want to download TikTok. Do the Chinese still own that? Does like a Chinese? I don't want like the Chinese government having access to my like phone. That's like I never downloaded it. Celtic accurate underwear short. Just do something. I shouldn't say this, but I will. I'm currently wearing a not a goofy top. What's the other dog's name? The other Disney dog? The actual dog? Clive? That's not his name. Pluto. I was like, Clive? Cleveland? Why are these names in my mind? Why is Clive in my mind? Clive the Disney dog. I think it's Pluto. But yeah, I do have a Pluto top on. It's a very nice one. Girl, that's the least of your concerns at this point. TikTok is VTuber hell. Yes, but technically no, but also yes. I don't have TikTok because the US thingy can track you through the app, apparently. Yeah, that's what I'm also... Like, why they take an interest in me, I don't know, but I feel like they just do it just to fuck with me. Also, the guy's Singaporean. Which guys are Singaporean? Just Nerf's VTuber posts? I didn't know about that. Although I have heard some people actually say that like the CEO. Oh, the CEO of TikTok. I see. Hello, Spikle. Sometimes I slap the soles of my feet just to feel the love from a boy I deserve. I mean, hi, typo. How to delete this message? What up? Nice to see you, Spikle. I hope someday you get a cute boy such as yourself to be able to slap your heels or your soles without you needing to do it yourself. I hope you find that boy. But it's nice to see you. How are you doing? Is that a little I love when emotes have like that blush in the little fingies. When they have the little fingy pokes. Those are always very cute. Spikle, don't stare at that one. That's a very normal desire. Sometimes I slack myself to feel the love of the imaginary man. The worst part was I had two images in my mind. A spank slap and a slap across the face. I was going to be like, Haru, why do you want an abuser? What the fuck? But I mean, you can also do that in a sexual sense, I suppose. Yeah, that can also work. It doesn't necessarily have to be abuse. It's like we just get a view into Haru's mind portal, and it's like a guy in a wife beater. He's like a little bit fat. He's just drinking all the time. He's like the worst of the worst. He's like the quintessential. How do I repost the Twitch message? Ew, no. No, I'm just... the comment now is making me think of the abusing angle. And it's not like... abuse against significant others isn't funny. It was just the way I read it and the image that popped into my mind being like, wait, why do you want that? That's terrible. Is what made me laugh. I have to circumvent the Google Docies. A twisted version of Hank Hill appears in my mind. He's laughing, guys. He's laughing at my misery. I thought you liked being slapped, though. I thought that was the whole point. Why do I have a zip tie here? It's a cut. No, it's a. Oh wait, I know why I had a zip tie, because I was tying up the cables of my PC. Come on, slap me. Okay, this goes for all of you. There we go. Hank Dungeon Master Hill. Why do you have zip ties? Because I was putting in my new PC, or my new PC parts, so I was like, I had to cut some stuff. Some zip ties that I already had to get out some of the cables, and then I was that was nothing. You know what? No. All of you being like, do it harder, do it more. No, get away from me, you freaks. No, Legend posted push-up. Okay, we're gonna do the push-ups, and then we're gonna get into the reading, because I do have to get into the reading quickly, because I want this to be the last. This is a weird stream, and we're not even like 30 minutes in. Oh, we're like 35 minutes in. This is concerning. Tell dwarves to go back to the mines is how they build. Wait, hang on. I have to get into. I'm gonna try and do a Hank Hill. Do you know what a JPEG is? We politely tell dwarves to go back to the mines. It's how they build, Bobby. Oh my God, Sarah! Thank you so much for the gift sub to Haru. That's so kind of you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I opened the gates of chat's weirdness. It's always bubbling under the surface. Because you're weird. No, I am perfectly normal. I am perfectly normal. We're 37 minutes in. Put a clock on your throat. That's a fucking biting comment, Legend. Oh my God. That is a biting ass comment. I can make you shart and shiggle. I see. I'm the most normal person here. Maybe. Anyway, I'm gonna do push-ups real quick. I was at the gym already today doing back and biceps, so hopefully my chest is decent. Oh, let me check some. Oh no, it's all good. Let me just do something real quick. Hang on 2 seconds. Oh my god. Oh my god. Whoa. Okay, Legend. Oh my god, Legend. Thank you for the 5 gifted subs. That's so kind of you. Thank you. Very cool. Thank you. Congrats to Lunar Star. Congrats to Zubikaka, The Davis, Ninetails Fox, and Lucio Lumen. OVT. for getting the gifted subs. Thank you so much, Legend. That's so kind of you. Thank you. Guys. Thank you. It's very kind of you guys. Thank you. You're all very, very cool. I'm not pissing everywhere. Shut the fuck up. We get top tier tuck-ins. Okay. Let me quickly do the push-ups to get those out of the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18,
19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30.
Okay, there we go. Onyo, onyo. I almost knocked something. We good though. We good. We all good. But thank you again, Legend, for the subs. Very based. Someone give leg a smooch. Do give leg a smooch. The Legend was really a foot. You ever think about kissing a cute I hate the word gilf. Her dentures. The cream that makes it stick to her gums. Michael, that's a fucked up thing you just wrote. That's a very fucked up thing you just wrote. You love his... my model just... It's cause my microphone activates the mouth tracking. So that's what does it. If there's any sound around, it will just like... It just opens. You need 1,000 push-ups. No. That isn't even halfway there. No. You're like Pip asking me faster. I was doing them quick enough. I wonder how much your therapist just get his ass, Dixie. Wait, that's kind of cool. I'm not like those guys that can do like push-ups for hours. Thank you, Sarah, for the hydrate. Did you wash your hands? I didn't actually go to the bathroom. I just quickly threw up the BRB and then I just had to take a call. So I just saw a tweet from Daya, or a message from Daya, a DM saying I'm going to try Indian food, and there's now a tweet saying I tried Indian food for the first time. Let me see what he says. Oh, he didn't. He posted an image of SpongeBob apparently going up to heaven. So I hope he's doing okay. Pissing everywhere like a dang dog. I don't piss everywhere. I'm very clean. I'm very accurate. Except sometimes when you get those like split streams, like when it goes like 2, 3, maybe even... Sometimes you're very unlucky and you get the 5-way split and it's like, oh damn. Should put you on a leash. How dare you? Doesn't wash his hands. Who's we? I feel like this is projection from you, Harry. You definitely don't wash your hands. I don't wash your legs in the shower or whatever. Who's we? Okay. I apologize for shutting this off. Excuse me. But I do have to get into the actual reading section of this. Of this stream. I'm a very hygienic person. Sure. Because otherwise... Choke on a book. Thank you. Ooh, let's see what the hype chest was. And oh my god, it's a fish. Okay, whoever like got this, post it in chat. Endler love. It's a fish with a heart. Look at that fish. Aw, cute. Very cute. Very good emote. Sometimes the Twitch hype emotes are terrible, and then other times they're like so good. Very, very good. They're like emotes that you never use, and then they're like, oh, you gotta use the fish. Anyway. Enough. You're so easily amused. What the fuck? Don't be mean. Don't bully me. Don't say... You got this? What's that? Oh, that's kind of cute. Where's the... Oh my god, yeah, it's one. You just gotta get lucky, Haru. Where's the other half? Who knows? I'm not easily amused. I'm perfectly normally amused. I told my browser to highlight dang because a lot of people know me as Dixie, but a few know me as dang. Is that what it's saying? That I'm lonely forever? What becomes of the broken hearted who had love that's now departed? I know we've got to find some kind of peace of mind. I've been searching everywhere, trying to find someone to care. Anyway. This is the only community on God Green Earth to use minced oats and refuse to say damn? Huh? I'm shaving me leg. Well, you should do a karaoke stream. Maybe sometime. Diva kind of ate that. What if I don't have a song? If I don't have like the actual music next to me, and I can just sing in my natural range, and I can just pick what the key is, then it kind of goes okay. Dang, you're old, Dixie. Does that highlight? Anyway. I'm going to start reading. You guys can just be silly. When last we left off, though, it was looking at Ireland and its neighbours after Clontarf. And it was kind of looking a little bit about Wales, as well as kind of how it was being perceived abroad. Can you sing Let It Go again so I have something to clip? Hi, Pip, is nice to see you and yo. You, Ireland? I know you just gave a gift sub, Seraph, but I'm going to /ban forever and send a hitman to stab him in the chest like 5 times. And maybe once in the thigh. Yes. There we go. Should be coming to your house in about next 4 to 5 business days. A rat. Leave my he, his, himbo chest alone. Thank you very much. Goddamn, I'm trying not to get distracted. I'm so easily fucking distracted. I'm not easily amused. I'm easily distracted. I'm blocking the chat now. I can't see you guys. Get your fucking hand off me, legend. Diarmid certainly had a record in this kind of patronage. When they were in exile in Ireland in winter 1051 to 52, it was the King of Leinster who played host to the 2 sons of Earl Godwin of Wessex, Leofwin and Harold, and following the latter's death at the Battle of Hastings in 1066, at least 2 of his sons in turn fled to Ireland. Diarmid again provided a fleet in 1068, which they used in an unsuccessful assault on Bristol, and the harrying of Devon and Somerset, and in a repeated attempt to recover ground in the West Country in 1069, which met with such resistance that all of Harold's sons could do to make it back in one piece to Leinster, never to be heard of again. If this is kind of ASMR, can we do requests? It is ASMR, but it's not like request ASMR. I'm sorry, Pip, because I'm trying to get through the actual book itself, because I want this to be the last one. 69. But what if I want kisses? Or keys? I will do a normal ASMR stream this week, I think. I've been wanting to do one for a while. I'm gonna go lurk and die rendering call me when, I don't know, something I'm interested in. Thank you for letting me know that you have no interest in the reading. 2 ear scratches, I love you. Sure thing. Can I get double? What? What do you mean? Do your best though, Haru. Do your best. Get that commission money, hopefully. That to the Godwinsons' relationship with King Diarmid was similar to that which he seemed to have had with the family of Kynan Ab Aego of Gwynedd, which might traditionally have been viewed as the bond between a lord and its clients, is suggested by an event that occurred in 1068. Munster had recently obtained the worthy successor to Brian Boru in the person of his grandson Taird al-Buch Ua Brian, who died 1086. Hello, Mayume, hello, hello. But he is a hot voice. Nice. No, see, as long as he's not someone you can bully, then it's okay. That is cheating a little bit. Munster had recently... Oh, wait, no. Although he was a protege to Diarmid mac Mael na Meo, Tord el-Buch's gratitude was short-lived. In 1068, he led an expedition into Leinster to assert preeminence over his erstwhile patron, obtaining a trophy from Diarmid, what the Irish annals call the Standard of the King of the English. The most likely identity of this treasured artifact is the battle standard borne by Harold at Hastings and bestowed by his sons on Diarmait mac Mael na Meo, presumably as some kind of acknowledgement of his overlordship, after they had found refuge in Ireland under his protection. It was most likely direct dominance of the Hiberno-Scandinavian settlement at Wexford that first manoeuvred Diarmait mac Mael na Meo's long-ailing dynasty into a position of prominence and power throughout the southeastern quadrant of Ireland. But Diarmait's great leap forward, what propelled him to national importance and gave him a recognition factor in England and Wales, was the fact that in 1052 he succeeded in adding Dublin and its hinterland, Fine Gael, the territory of the foreigners, to his personal domain. Its importance lies in the fact that Diarmait expelled the Hiberno-Norse king of Dublin and appropriated the kingship of Dublin to himself. Brian had never done this. What Brian and others had been content with, it seems, was a relatively undemanding assertion of authority, whereby... Oops, sorry, I'm going to turn off the music, actually, and just have the fire in the background. Of authority, whereby Dublin's rulers merely submitted and handed over hostages and booty, but remained on or soon reappeared as king. There is therefore underway a process of intensification of Irish lordship over the Norse, the Hiberno horse, which Ireland had been greatly accelerated, which Brian had greatly accelerated, but which was now stepping up in even further gear. Double the kisses for the whole chat, we'll see. It's not commission, I'm sorry. I bully his mod, who also has a nice voice. A nice voice. He also has a nice voice. What if I started talking like this all the time? What if I put on like a little Dublin accent? Would you guys still come to my streams? I'm starting to sound like Katie Taylor. My voice would just have to be higher and scratchier to sound like Katie. Unsubbing, unblocking, or blocking, reporting, I'll cheat on you again. a kilogram of steel, or a kilogram of feathers. That's right, a kilogram of steel, because steel is heavier than feathers. Anyway. After several consequences flowed from Diarmait's actions. First, to all intents and purposes, in 1052, Dublin was transformed from a Viking beachhead on Leinster soil into the capital of that province. Secondly, boosted by its acquisition, Diarmait mac Mael na Meo and his South Leinster dynasty of Uachennasleig were able, after 3 centuries in the wilderness, to displace their North Leinster counterparts, the Uadunlain, as overkings of all Leinster. Thirdly, in the light of the precedent it set, as we shall see, he then proceeded to bestow Dublin on his favoured son Murchad, who ruled from Dublin under his father's remote direction. And fourthly, in exploiting the maritime gateway that Dublin provided, Murchad invaded the Isle of Man in 1061 and exacted tribute from its inhabitants, thereby extending the Leinster dynasty's lordship to encompass this transmarine satellite, no doubt emulating long-standing Viking practice and perhaps also a hegemony that lay behind Brian's adoption of the title Imperator Scotorum. Murchad died as king of the foreigners in 1070, and when his father followed him to the grave 2 years later, the annalists recognised him as king of Dublin and of Inish Gaul, the Gaelic term for the Hebrides and Man. Apparently, control of Dublin provided the key with the potential to unlock access to specific overseas territories. It was control of Dublin after 1052 that provided Diarmait mac Mael na Meo with access to the resources to take the war to his rival provincial kings beyond Leinster's borders and stake a claim to being king of all Ireland. Like Brian, he was not of O'Neill stock, but since Brian had exposed the irrelevance of such a prerequisite, Diarmait was now to take full advantage of this new opportunity, equal opportunities era. By the time of his death in 1072, he had become the most successful Irish king since Brian. He was the king of Leinster and the Hiberno-Norse bases at Wexford and Dublin, and having obtained submissions from neighbouring Osraig and Munster, was ruler of Leath Moga, the southern half of Ireland. Unfortunately for the Leinstermen's hopes of elevating themselves to a position of paramountcy throughout Ireland, while attempting an offensive into Leath Cuan, the northern half, by gaining overlordship of the southern Unail, Diarmait met his end there in the Battle of Obda in 1072. But it was because of his achievements in emulating Brian in the interprovincial game of snakes and ladders that Diarmid Mac Mael Meo was described in an admittedly slight retrospective obit as King of Ireland with opposition, Riherind Cofesabra. This is a term coined after the Unail ascendancy had crumbled, intended to provide a dispassionate depiction, insofar as that could be expected from retained mandarins, of the new style of province king who bid for, while rarely achieving, unopposed mastery over the whole island. Although the title did not exist in his day, it was in effect what Brian was for most of the dozen years during what he professed to be High King. In that sense, therefore, the new age that Brian ushered in embodies a new concept of Irish kingship, the age of the Riherind Cofesabra, King of Ireland with opposition. And it was Diarmid Mac Mael Namio's plucky emulation of Brian that won him that title. And as with the great landmarks in Brian's career, it is remarkable how big a part Dublin played. It should come to no surprise then, therefore, that no sooner had Diarmid met his end at Oldba in 1072, that Brian's grandson, Terdelbach Ua Brian. How are you? I'm doing well, Pip. I'm doing pretty good. I have a fan next to me. It's keeping me nice and cool. I think that might have been directed towards Sochi, so maybe I shouldn't have answered that. But I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay, Pip. That Terdelbach marched his armies and accepted the offer of its kingship from the Hiberno Norse on Dublin. The very fact of doing so seemed to have secured him a place of prosperity as a second Irish king with opposition. And just as Diarmid had anointed his son Mircud to rule the city and its territory under him, by 1075 the annals confirm that Terdelbach had followed suit, and his son and successor Mircatoch, who died in 1119, is recorded as having taken over the kingship of Dublin. He was in effect serving an apprenticeship that in time would qualify him to succeed as the third Riherind Cofesabra. Oh, excuse me, I have to take a quick call again. Did you facepoke me, Pip? How dare you? How dare you, Pip? Oh, legend. I guess it's kind of warm by the fire. I guess that's okay. I was just about to eat. Oh, I'm sorry, Ravens. Did I wake you up? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm roasting my mellow right now over the fire. Ooh, I hope you're mellow. I hope are you having s'mores, Dixie? What is the... What is that emote? Turn up. I called him again, my bad. Oh no. Stop interrupting my stream. I want s'mores. Share, please. Do share. Make sure you share, Dixie. Especially with me. I meant it metaphorically. Well, share it metaphorically. Share it metaphysically with me. You are a vibe. Thank you. Where were we? Here we are. While Mircatoch Ua Brian, Brian's great-grandson and therefore from the first generation to bear the name Ua Brian, or O'Brien as the name became, as a surname, ruled and probably resided in Dublin. There seems to be little doubt that Teirdelbach appointed another son, Diarmid, to govern the Viking-founded town of Waterford, that he himself had one of his royal residences at Limerick, the third of the great urban achievements of the Vikings in Ireland. It was Brian who began this, after he subsumed Limerick into his domain early on in his reign, and therefore he was undoubtedly the first Irish king to appreciate fully the advantages of urbanization. And at the last quarter of the 11th century began, there must have seemed every reason to suppose that Brian's grandsons and great-grandsons would prove successful in his object of obtaining durable rule over Ireland. It is certainly ironic, therefore, given the traditional depiction of Brian as having driven the Vikings out of Ireland, that it was his family that above all others was the champion of those towns, those Trojan horses inherited from the Vikings, making them quintessentially their own for the purposes of familial and dynastic aggrandizement. I'm going to eat listening to stream. Have a good sleep, ravens. As we have seen, at the height of the Viking Age, the sleeping pan if you need it, onyo. More than 4 hours. I hope so too. I hope it's at least like 6 or 7. As we have seen, at the height of the Viking Age, the Uanale had been resilient enough to thwart the emergence of permanent Viking bases in Leath Cuan, while their southern counterparts had had to tolerate with what they could not force out. But by the time of Brian's death at Clontarf, those footholds were flourishing towns, the greatest concentration of wealth on the island, and the southern kings prospered through transactions with them. As the Uanale, bemoaning perhaps their short-sighted inhospitality, saw their former vigour wither from lack of resources and their ancient primacy scorned. Brian died. Damn, bro, I know. Sag, very sag. I do love this point, though, that because the northern half of Ireland was more successful in dealing with the Vikings, they never set up bases that could become important towns, and they weren't able to then take control of those towns to have control over the flow of goods and all that. And also especially using those towns and bases as military projection, while the South did struggle more, did allow them to set up better enclaves, and were then able to force that later. Rip Brian, the only name I can remember. That's fair. Just don't hit it hard enough to cause memory loss. A little bit of memory loss never hurt anybody. As with Diarmid MacMail and Meo before them, the domestic elevation of the Ua Brian consequent on their command of the town seems to have conferred an immediate international profile. It was to the court of Brian's grandson Teirdelbach, the annals tell us, that a delegation of Jews repaired in 1079, presumably seeking leave to establish themselves there, although they were rapidly sent away. With the profile came responsibilities. When the clergy and people of Dublin came together in 1074 to elect as their bishop Gilla Patrick, an Irish monk schooled under St. Wulfstan of Worcester, Archbishop Lanfranc of Canterbury consecrated them, sending him back to Dublin with a letter for its Hiberno-Norse leader and another for its overlord, Teirdelbach Ua Brian. It is a letter of praise for this peace-loving and just ruler, as Gilla Patrick had described him to Lanfranc, but also an exhortation to Teirdelbach to convene his assembly of clerics for the purposes of prohibiting, by edict, the many abuses of Ireland of which Lanfranc had heard reports, primarily in the area of marriage customs. Now, I think that could be an interesting note, because that one might... That's the bibliography. How do I find where the specific... It's the index. That's not notes. Oh wait, references from 5 to 5.1, and it's 45. Oh, never mind. It was just a reference. I hate when books put in like note symbols, like the little 1 and 2s, and then it's just a reference to an article or something or another book, and spell it without summoning anything. Where were we? We were here. It was long held that this appeal fell on deaf ears, and it was not until the later part of the reign of Teardalbach's son Muirchadach O'Brien that the issue of spiritual and structural reform of the Irish Church got underway. Indeed, this process is almost invariably inferred as the 12th century reform of the Church, and the council held under Muirchadach's auspices at Cashel in 1101 is perennially cited as the official unveiling. In fact, however, it appears that Teardalbach presided over a synod held in Dublin in 1080, attended by the most senior cleric of the country, the successor of St. Patrick at Armagh, and the leading churchman of Munster, if not of other provinces. When their deliberations led to a difference of opinion, they dispatched a letter to Lanfranc at Christmas 1080, asked him to clarify the issues concerned, as he duly did in a letter that, if it arrived while the synod was still in session, shows that the synod must surely have continued into 1081. Furthermore, in 1085, Teardalbach again presided over an assembly of bishops of Ireland and the clergy and people of Dublin, which elected another Irishman, Donagus Ua Hailinglu, a monk under Lanfranc of Canterbury, to replace the late Gilla Patrick, and he too was consecrated by the English primate. Following Dongus's death, his nephew Samuel, a monk at St. Albans, was consecrated by Archbishop Anselm of Canterbury in 1096, having been chosen in an assembly by the Dubliners with the assent of Teardalbach's son Muirchadach. And later that year, another Hiberno Norse town, Waterford, got its first bishop when Muirchadach and his brother Diarmid presided over an assembly of senior clerics and laymen, who chose Mael Iesu Ua Hanam Mira, an Irish monk trained at Winchester, and sent him too for formal consecration at the hands of the Archbishop of Canterbury. Only when Limerick, the third great Viking-built town and now the O'Brien's capital, got a bishop in the person of the celebrated Gilla, was the Canterbury link broken. He was elected sometime after the Great Council of Cashel in 1101, and before approximately 1107, when the first of his surviving letters was written. Thus it would appear that for the last quarter of the 11th century, the O'Brien made no objection to the involvement of Canterbury in the Irish Church, over which Lanfranc is particularly vigorous in asserting a primacy that had no historical precedent. On the face of it, appears odd that a dynasty seeking sovereign authority throughout all Ireland, in matters secular, would allow and indeed promote the ecclesiastical encroachment of Canterbury. Perhaps this was tolerated while relations with William the Conqueror, who died in 1087, and his son, William Rufus, who died in 1100, were on an even keel, and the political crisis at the outset of Henry I's reign, in which we shall see, Muirchadach O'Brien was implicated, upset the balance and made recourse to Canterbury unworkable. Pop-Tart. Hello, it's Rosalina. Hello, as I see you. I was going to read it as Itzro Alina. But hello, Rosalina. Hi, Pop-Tart. Pop goes the tart. I think I had a Pop-Tart before, and I think it was decent. I think it wasn't bad. Thank you for the head pat. That's very kind of you. Thank you. Pop-Tart. I'm hungry now. Oh no. Where were we? Or perhaps the absence of a resident Archbishop of Canterbury during Anselm's exile from April 1103 to August 1106 explains the particular circumstances that denied Gilla of Limerick the possibility of a Canterbury consecration, and it may well have occasioned second thoughts about the advisability of reliance on an external superior. You can't eat because my back is getting big. Your back is getting big? Well, some people like that. Some people like that. But do watch your health. I'm 128 kilograms? 128 kilograms. Damn. That's crazy, Harold. 128 kilograms? You are big. I won't finish that sentence. I'm not that heavy. That's like, dude, 128 kilograms is like 200 and... I'm going to say 240? No, let me think. 225. 270, I would say. I think. 2 pounds. 280. It's 282. Damn. Pound me? Goodness me. 128 pounds. What's that? What is that? I'm finding that out in thingy. 128 pounds to kg. 58 kg. I understand now, kind of. Can you bench me? I can bench you. I can bench you. At my absolute strongest, I would have been able to shoulder press you. I had done 70 kg overhead presses a couple of times. Yeah, no, I had gotten two. I think the best I did was 70 kg for 3 reps, and maybe I think I got a 72.5 once, but it would have been a very ugly. Sasa almost can. I mean, what? Bench or shoulder press? I'm on a calorie deficit. Do your best, Haru. Track your calories. Bench. Oh, my bench. I had a pretty strong bench for a while. But again, after I got the injury, and it wasn't even necessarily the injury. And my strongest was just before I got into boxing for a while, and then I had to pull back from the gym a little bit because it was just too much on my body. Then I got the injury, and then that really dropped my weight. But like, I could, at my strongest, I could do like 105, 107.5 kg for like 1 or 2, and I was getting like 4 reps, 5 reps with 100 kg. Now I think I'm around like 80, 85. Bench me, thanks, I love you. Sure, I'll like bench you and like throw you up and backwards, so you just like fall. I don't track nothing I eat by vibe. 1 scuba rice and a half a scuba dish. Instead of I-L-Y, it's gonna be I-F-L-Y. You're gonna fly while I... But do your best. Obviously, you kind of know, you guys would know your own body, but what I would always say for people who are looking to lose weight is track very diligently. Like, you don't have to track to the exact calorie, but do your best to track at a rough estimate diligently for at least a month and work out, because then that will give you a baseline understanding of like how much actually is this. How much actually is this? It's okay, I don't eat breakfast. That's fair. That's fair. I've lost a couple of kg recently, actually. I switched the photosynthesis. That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea, legend. Like, you just don't want to gain weight, you just stand outside. You just stand out of the sun. How can I do that? It's like, oh, guys, I'm really full right now. I'm just going to step into the shade real quick. There is no shade. What? Yeah, it's like probably another, like, 10... It's probably like another, like, 2 kilometers before we get to, like, trees and stuff. It's like, oh, God, I'm going to get so fat. Like, as you're walking, you're just clearly gaining more photosynthesis weight. All that starch is building up in your body. Is it starch? No, like, not cellulose. Whatever fucking plants do. I forget. It's been a while since science. Very painfully. I hit like 15k steps the other day. I died inside. I'm not doing all that again. I've been running a lot more. I've been doing a lot of fairly consistently, like doing at least, not every day, but like at least 4 days a week, getting like, you know, a nice 5k, 6k run in. Run over you? Sure. End it all. I am trying to push it up and trying to go a little bit quicker. I've been more consistent than I've been in a long time, so I'm happy with that. I listen to like military cadence running music, so it's a lot of like left, 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 right, left, but not that slow. It's more like I've been binging this girl grooming dogs. Oh, I think I know the videos. They're very cute, but it's more like I want a big dog. Big dogs are big. I love big dogs. I do love big dogs. They're very cute. But it's faster. A Malamute. Ooh. It's like, what's a good one? What's a good one? It's just like I'm trying to think of the speed. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, 1. Rock, 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 steady. It's kind of just that beat, but like the 1, 2, 3 on every number, you're landing on your left foot. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that kind of thing. Rock steady. Rock steady is a great one. Fired up is another one that I love. There's another one, raccoon skin and alligator hide, that I just gets me through like a good 10. Rock steady. Man knows how to dance. Yeah, I'm not the worst dancer. I'm not the worst dancer. I can have fun. I don't think we're finishing the book today though. I have my doubts. Can you swing 'em hips, boy? I can. Kind of. Like I'm not like an amazing dancer. But I can do okay. I can move. I've gotten people come up to me and be like, "Dude, you're so good at dancing," in clubs where we're like all half drunk, so obviously it just looks. Can you twerk it? I can't twerk it. I mean, I can like do like a squat down. You know that thing that like the girlies do, where they drop it low. I can do that. His twerk is a squat. Well, yeah, I can squat. I like squatting. But like the thing is that like I'll drop down into a squat, and then I'll like, you know that thing where like you like slowly rise up with the beat. I'll do that. And other silly stuff. Can you twerk while doing? No, I can't twerk, guys. Maybe someday I'll get a 3D model, and it'll horribly track me dancing, and my model will like kill itself. Anyway. Can you split? I don't think so. No, and I don't want to try. I wasn't able to the last time I tried. Hyper masculine white girl dancer. It's gonna track that big cake of you. You guys are weird. You guys are weird. I do know Kabu Vior. He does like he's a very good dancer. He's a really good dancer. He like has a really good high quality setup for that type of tracking. I assume it probably costs a lot, but maybe I should ask him about that, about like getting a model done in VR chat and then having all the tracking and stuff, like what he would suggest. I haven't seen Kabu in a while. I have to check out if he's doing okay. You're weirder? No. I'm glue. No, fuck. I fucked up the joke. I fucked up the saying. I was gonna say yeah, I'm rubber, you're glue, and instead I just said I'm glue. What are you doing a hand cam? I don't know what to do on a hand cam though. That's the only thing. I'd have to get like another. The thing is, I'd have to get like another arm, like another camera arm, to. That's not a hand cam though. Like I'm not missing a hand. I swear, I'm not missing a arm. I'd have to get another camera or phone arm for the camera. That'd be a surprise if I was an amputee. I don't even have a joke beyond that. I don't really know what the joke is there. I was gonna say something about like, oh, I'd be a shoe-in for like a diversity hire into like Niji Sanji or Hollow Stars, but it's not really. That was like, I couldn't really word it great. Solving a Rubik's Cube with 3 hands. I want to see you suffer. I just, the issue is that like I don't have too much space. I'd have enough to do something. I'd like to do something. Like I'm not just like showing my hands. Also, by the way, how do you guys feel about? I always question this. I have kind of like, you know like the area, like your digit, on your fingies, you have like the point between your middle knuckle and your main knuckle. Like, should that be smooth? Like, I have hair growing there. I think most people, most guys do. Should that be shaved? Like, does that look better shaved? I never know. Because my hands are kind of hairy. Like, down the sides. Not like the side, but like, you know, arm down. Wax it. What? No, not like the palms of my... There's a level of freak that goes into shaving your individual fingers. What the fuck? Don't say that. It's me. Ruadh is a bear. Confirm. I don't think I'm heavy enough to be... I feel like for a bear, you have to be like... Gonna have to be like a really big boy. Ruadh or a bear debate. We discussed this earlier. Clearly, it's Ruadh. Finally beating the twink allegations. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Thank you, Spikle. Thank you. Or Speakle. I am beating the allegations, finally. Ugh. I'm not like Fua, who's like perfectly smooth everywhere. No problemo. Thank you. I added that lemo. Still a twink in my eyes, of course. But that wasn't me saying that. Straight people are still talking about how the woman took the bear. You know what? I'll answer it. Women, I get what you mean. I get that it's meant to be a sort of, you don't feel comfortable around men in secluded areas, and you almost like you will say bear. Like I understand what you're saying. The subcontext. I understand the subcontext of the point that you're making. But no, if you saw a bear in real life, I don't think you would actually want to be near that thing. They are very like if it's a black bear, maybe. Shut up, male. I'm gonna slap a bitch real quick, Haru. You said you like it. How do you know Fua is... I'm saying, have you seen him on Facecam? Have you seen him? We're over here like, so bear? Was too knowledgeably said. But he's talked about this before. He is I'm not gonna say a twink. He is. But like, you said everywhere. Well, that's what he's told me. We've talked about like grooming because he is a man who is very good with skincare and like knows what he wants in style. Smooth. Why are you two talking about grooming? Because I've asked him about skincare before. Who are you grooming? I've talked to him about skincare, you fucking groupies. Not the groupies. God damn it, no. I'm going back to my book. I'm going back to my goddamn book. Leave me alone. Ruadh will never groom me. That's Spiko. Don't worry. If you like, I'll do like a monkey groom. If you like sit down, I'll like come up behind you. I'll like pick out the bugs out of your hair. I'll like scratch your back. How about that? God, I haven't had my back scratched in a while. I want that. I want that now. Think if I go to like a massage place and they're like, you know, doing the like elbowing me in the fucking nerves of my back so that it feels good and hurts. Do you think if I just go like, can you also just like scratch my back real quick, that they'll do it? I can elbow you. No, I want to scratchies. That's a good thing. Book. Thank you, Legend. I will go back to the book. I'm sorry, do you not like scratchies? What the fuck? I'm sorry. Everyone here would enjoy a head pat and a scratch. A scratch down their back with like nice, not too sharp nails. I like head scratches. You don't like back scratches? Not your... What? What are you talking about? Like someone tracing their nails over your back, drawing symbols, like guessing the... Guess the word? Guess the word. That you'd guess the letters, guess the numbers. I'm going back to my book. This isn't going to be the final. I think I preemptively called it the final stream. So that's what you like. My streamer doesn't want to groom me. No, bold, Spikel. This is a level of intimacy no streamer ever deserves to experience. What the fuck? That's mean. That's mean. No, I deserve to experience that intimacy. I deserve to experience the intimacy of lying on my significant other's lap, like turned, like sleeping, and they're just like playing with my hair. I'm kidding. Okay, I know. Head pats you. I know jokes. Do it now. Okay. But the I'm not counting from 10. So fun. No, I'm blocking chat right now. I can't see you guys. The most likely explanation is that O'Brien had stomached Canterbury's pretensions only for so long as it suited them. In other words, while Ireland's de facto ecclesiastical capital, Armagh, lay within the compass of the former High Kings de Unail. However, if a solution could be found whereby an acknowledgement of Armagh's primacy carried no political implications, did not smack of deference to the Unail, then Canterbury could be put aside, and that solution presented itself in 1101. The site of the council in 1101 was Cashel, the ancient capital of Munster, and the highlight of the gathering was Mircatoc's bestowal of the Rock of Cashel in perpetuity on the Irish Church. 2 years later, he visited Armagh in person, and laid an offering of gold on the altar, as his great-grandfather Brian had done almost exactly a century earlier in 1005. Here was the ground being laid for Mircatoc's solution, as was formally enacted at the Council of Ruadh in 1111. This part established a territorial Dacian structure that has survived in large part ever since. There would be 2 ecclesiastical provinces, later increased to 4, that of Cashel for the southern half and Armagh for the north, with the latter having the primacy, and possibly taking advantage of the vacancy of Canterbury following Anselm's death in 1109. Canterbury's claims to superior status or to any other jurisdiction over the affairs of the Irish Church would be repudiated. I'm genuinely holding my silly boy tummy laughing. I'm glad you're having an enjoyable stream. This is meant to be ASMR. I call this ASMR and I feel like I'm falsely advertising so much. How could anyone relax to this? The delicate diplomacy required of Brian's ascendants, the O'Brien, in their dealings with the English primate was a consequence of their dominion of the towns. This dominion also encouraged supranational aspirations. It is worthy of note that in 1073, within a year of Terdelbach's claiming lordship over Dublin, 2 O'Brien met violent deaths on the Isle of Man, almost certainly in the act of asserting its claim as arising from its Dublin acquisition. Similarly, when his son Mircatoc took charge of Dublin in 1075, he became patron of the exiled heirs of Eago of Gwynedd, and the romantic biography of Eago's grandson, Gruffudd ap Cynan, chronicles a long alliance between the two. It began in the very year that Mircatoc took control of Dublin, when he supplied Gruffudd with the city-state's fleet in response to the first of the Welshman's regular pleas for such assistance to establish himself in Gwynedd. As we have seen, another of Terdelbach's sons, Diarmait O'Brien, had control of Waterford, and the biography of Gruffudd ap Cynan gives Diarmait's naval aid much of the credit for the success of Gruffudd and of Rhys ap Tuedor of Deheubarth, South Wales, at the famous Battle of Myned Cairn the following year, which secured both men in their respective kingships. You just gotta whisper is all. Switch it to writing and reading. Why do you guys insist on calling it that? I hate that. I hate it. You guys know I hate it. You do it because it annoys me. You don't do it because that's how you'd write it. You would say reading and writing too. Except in this very instance. Because Twitch calls it that. Man, fuck Twitch. Writing and reading is the category. I know it is, and it's wrong. After 1066, partisan entanglements in Wales led Irish kings directly to encounters with Normans, and specifically with an Anglo-Norman court alert to Ireland's role in offering asylum and assistance to insular enemies. William the Conqueror's expedition to St. David's in 1081 may be viewed in such a context, as may perhaps a mysterious eulogy in the Peterborough Anglo-Saxon Chronicle that maintains that had the Conqueror lived but yet another couple of years beyond 1087, he would have won Ireland by astuteness without the use of weapons. The observation may be baseless, but it is just conceivable that there is something to it. In the autumn of 85, William, alerted to the imminent invasion of England by Nuthar IV of Denmark in alliance with the Count of Flanders, returned from Normandy to England, and it was amid this crisis that the Domesday Book was commissioned. Although the invasion was postponed in 85, it was expected the following year, and it may be partly against this background that William the Conqueror exacted the Oath of Salisbury from his tenants-in-chief and their major tenants on the 1st of August 1086. We do not know whether William was aware at that point of the assassination of Nuthar in Odense in 10 July, or of the death of Teirdalbach O'Brien 4 days later at his palace at Caen Corrid, but no doubt good news travels fast. Be that as it may, William was forced to cross the English Channel soon afterwards to counter raids by Philip I of France, and was himself dead within the year. If, therefore, we are to give any credence to Peterborough's chronicler's curious remark about the Conqueror in Ireland, perhaps he is echoing some rumour of Norman aspirations to fill the vacancy of Ireland's high kingship following Teirdalbach's death. Recent intervention by the O'Brien in the affairs of Wales must have been a bone of contention, and the Normans may also have had some antipathy towards the Irish for suspected favouritism to the conquered Anglo-Saxons. But it must also have been known at William's court that, if past performance were anything to go by, forces from Ireland were likely to lend their backing to Scandinavian ambitions in England, as had been made manifest on numerous occasions within living memory, indeed stretching from the time of the Battle of Clontarf onwards. There is some evidence in the years after Clontarf of King Nuthar's influence, if not power, in towns such as Dublin, and perhaps even Sitrick Silkenberg's espousal of the Anglo-Danish regime. In 1058, the Dublin fleet had augmented forces drawn from Orkney and the Hebrides in support of the Western expedition. Bro keeps again, it's distracting me. I think it's because I'm turned slightly away from my camera, so it's having trouble picking things up. I'll turn more towards the camera. And also I'm like looking down too. At the book. I'm not a frog. And the Hebrides in support of the Western expedition of Magnus, son of King Haraldr Hadri of Norway, which an Irish annalist at least believed was intent on the conquest of England. When Haraldr himself invaded England in 1066, Adam of Bremen thought there was an Irish king in his army, and bearing in mind that 2 of Harold Godwinson's sons and his daughter Guida had fled to Sweden after Hastings, it may not be a coincidence that the Danish invasion of England in 1069, in which the future Nuthar IV participated, overlapped with the last two attempts by 2 more of Harold's sons to effect a restoration in England, which, as we have seen, saw them bring from Ireland a fleet of 60 ships acquired from Diarmid mac Mael na Meo. Nuthar commanded the Swedish armada of 200 ships that struck at York in 1075. This was the year in which Murchatoch O'Brien took the kingship of Dublin, banishing overseas its Hiberno-Norse ruler, who died beyond the sea, having assembled a great fleet to come to Ireland. Perhaps the annalist believed that the Swedish fleet bound for England would also provide succour to Dublin's exiled Hiberno-Norse ruler, an episode reminiscent of the context of the Battle of Clontarf. Looking down at me, looking up at you. Hello, Gwenny. Well, I'm always looking down at you. You're a little shorty. You're a little short gobbo. Fucking auto type. Sure, bro. Like you don't frog blink in real life. I don't frog blink in real life. What are you talking about? Now you're making me blink. Look. There's a frog blinker. There's a frog blinker right there. Look, she's doing it. Meowdy. Hi, Gwenny. Hope you're doing well. Someone took my cloak earlier, so I suppose you can have it. It's somewhere around here. You can wrap up nice and warm. Ruadh glumps IRL. I don't glump IRL. Where were we? We were... Oh, I've lost it. I've lost it on you. Oh, there we are. The demise of Teirdelbach Ua Brian in 1086 did not halt the progress of Brian's dynasty, although the ensuing succession contest between his sons unquestionably sowed the seeds of later and predictable destabilization among the Ua Brian. From this dispute, by the late 1080s, Mirkatach Ua Brian emerged a victor and was happy to follow the time-honoured blueprint. Control of Dublin was essential, and at some unknown date he became the third consecutive High King with opposition, to appoint his heir to the position of king of that city-state. Dublin, in turn, we have seen, opened up possibilities in the Isles, and by the mid-1090s, not only were members of the Ua Brian again active in the Isle of Man, where Amlaeb, a son of Mirkatach's late brother Taig, met a violent end, but, according to the Manx Chronicle, where the king of the Isles died, leaving only a minor. The nobles of the Isles sent to Mirkatach, requesting a regent until their own royal heir came to age. He responded, we are told, by offering them the services of another of Taig's sons, Donal. Like much of the early portion of the Chronicle, this sounds rather far-fetched, but we have confirmatory evidence from the Irish annals, admittedly from a good deal later, in 1111, that this Donal did indeed take possession of the kingship of the Isles at this point. Irish expansionism in the region may have been one concern that prompted Harold Haraldi's grandson, King Magnus III, Barelegs of Norway, to make at least 2 western expeditions at the turn of the century, although it is quite conceivable that he was only the latest and, to all intents and purposes, the last in a long succession of Scandinavian royal figures with territorial ambitions elastic enough to embrace any and all parts of the archipelago. Well, the Irish certainly got off lightly on Magnus's first expedition in 1098, where the targets of his energy were the Western Isles, Man, and Britain's western littoral, from Galloway to Gwynedd. Almost all sources, on the other hand, are agreed that the primary, or at least the initial objective, of Magnus's 1102 campaign was Ireland, and the annalists indicate a successful occupation of Dublin from his Manx base. War with Mirkatach Ua Brian seemed inevitable, and as Dublin's impressive city walls have been dated archaeologically to approximately 1100, quite possibly this was done by directive of Mirkatach in the face of this threat. As it transpired, both kings seemed to have recognized that more was to be achieved by joining forces than by locking horns. A truce gave them time to hammer out an agreement that saw the Norwegian king's son, the future King Sigurd, Jerusalem farer, married off to a daughter of Ua Brian. King Magnus evidently envisioned a cadet western kingdom ruled by this younger son under the protection of an Irish father-in-law of distinguished pedigree. For Mirkatach, who had striven without success throughout his adult life, like his forefathers back and including Brian, to wring submission from the recalcitrant rulers of Ireland's far north, the services of dedicated Norwegian and insular allies, stationed to his enemy's flank and rear, must have invoked the prospect of ultimate victory. This was not to be. The ignominious demise of the great Magnus Barelegs, slain in a petty ambush on the shores of Ulster in the summer 1103, all but ended Norway's western dream. And when Mirkatach's family lost their grip on Dublin, soon after he himself fell gravely ill in 1114, the Ua Brian too had to bid farewell to at least 40 years of intervention in the North Irish Sea region, and quite possibly a history of involvement there stretching all the way back to Brian's assertion of a claim to Imperator Scotorum. But in truth, it was always something of a long shot for a dynasty rooted in Ireland's southwest. There's so many what-ifs in Irish history. Like, if that king hadn't died and they had continued to assist the Ua Brian family, who he was now married into with the direct lineage, in harrying the north and Terdalbach or Mercatuk was able to basically take dominion over that region through his, the son, the married son could go up there and rule that region, let's say. And they were able to basically combine into ruling the island. You could have had a proper united Ireland in some ways. I'm sure the two brothers probably would have eventually, or the two relations of the O'Brien family would have eventually came to blows, but maybe something could have came to that. Who knows? Involvement in southern Britain somehow seems more likely. When we read that Mercatuk's Brian Diarmid brought the Waterford fleet across St. George's Channel to help secure Riaz ab Tedwyr in the kingdom of Deheubarth, it seems entirely credible. When we read that Riaz was driven into exile in Ireland some years later in 1088, who returned within the year and effected a restoration with Irish aid, it can be believed, as can the statement that when Riaz was killed in battle in 1093 by the Normans, then making heavy inroads into southern Wales, his young son Gruffydd was brought for safety to Ireland. Evidently the ruling line of Deheubarth had Irish allies, but to be told that this young boy Gruffydd ap Rhys ap Tedwyr remained in his Irish exile for the next 20 years, returning to Wales only as a grown man, and that he nevertheless was greeted with acclaim by his compatriots, and in due course managed to secure at least the substance of his ancestral Welsh patrimony. This seems like the stuff of legend, and yet it appears to be true, with all the implications it has, for instance, for cross-channel lines of communication, language use, cultural diversities, and Welsh attitudes to Irish and Ireland. Of course, the stories of Rhys's now elderly contemporary in Gwynedd, Gruffydd ap Cynan, was far from dissimilar, except that this latter Welsh king was actually born in Ireland, and apparently never set foot in his homeland until adulthood. Here too is food for thought. Hardly less credible, were it not amply corroborated, is Orderic Vitalis's well-known tale of Arnulf de Montgomery, Lord of Pembroke, one of the Normans who in the last decade of the 11th century had annexed so much of South Wales. When Henry I ascended the throne of England in 1100, Arnulf's family were to the fore in rebelling, but when that rebellion began to falter, there was nothing for it but to look west and to make contact with the greatest of the Irish, Mercatuk O'Brien. These contacts led to another of Mercatuk's daughters being given in marriage, this time to Arnulf de Montgomery, who obtained with her substantial naval assistance against King Henry, but it was of little avail. Orderic Vitalis had Arnulf forced to flee to Ireland, sending Norman troops into battle against his father-in-law's enemies, and beating a hasty retreat when his treacherous hosts turned against him. This piece of anti-Irish bias does not stand up to scrutiny. That much is clear from the fact that Mercatuk later sent a letter of thanks to Anselm of Canterbury for his intercession with King Henry on his son-in-law's behalf. So obviously it's saying that the claim is that the Irish betrayed, the O'Brien betrayed Montgomery, but seems not to have been the case. The chronicler William of Malmesbury may be closer to the mark when he says that it was only when Henry I instituted a trade embargo between England and Ireland that a rapid cooling occurred in O'Brien's ardour for intrigue. For of what value, he asks, would Ireland be if deprived of the merchandise of England? Whatever the precise course of events, and whatever the driving force behind it all, the Montgomery alliance in 1102 allows us a sneak glimpse at what was, by any reckoning of the world, a world of strange associations and remarkable possibilities. Precisely 100 years link the events of 1102 with those that saw an upstart Irish dynast named Brian Boru, called the Bluff of the Straw Kings, who had postured unchallenged since time immemorial, and grasped the high kingship for himself. The Uanale had depended for their ascendancy on the force of tradition and the persuasiveness of their propaganda. Brian and his successors fought their way up, and fought to stay up, and for a century after the Battle of Clontarf, all but one of Ireland's would-be kings were men of Brian's blood, his son, his grandson, and his great-grandson. But a century in power can make even an upstart forget. In time he may feel the impulse to convince others, as he convinced himself, of his right to rule. And so it was that Koga Gaeleri Galev made its appearance, propaganda commissioned to persuade the world of Dalkesh's royal birthright by reason of their assumed role in saving the Gael from the Viking Gaul. He really be eyeing that throne. I wanna eye the throne too. There's like a rock that you can sit that like is meant to announce if you're meant to be the next High King of Ireland. I want to go sit on it and they will shout out and I'll be the next High King. I'll be the next RB. Was the Koga written in celebration of the greatness of Brian and his kin, or was it a product of desperation, written at a time when the memory of the glory days of Brian's reign was beginning to fade, perhaps intended to remind its audience that Dalkesh supremacy deserved a second chance? It is difficult to know, but whatever the case, it was probably already too late. Brian's great-grandson, Mercatuk, rubbed shoulders, and his daughter has shared a marriage bed with a new type of Gaul, a Norman. When, later, in the 12th century, these new foreigners decided to take a gamble and follow in the Viking footsteps to Ireland, they faced an every-man-for-himself polity. It had been different in the Viking Age, when concerted Irish opposition to the invader was not an uncommon phenomenon, and it was Brian Boru who created this new polity. The notion of power he bequeathed to his heirs was one that provided, virtually without exception, only for a King of Ireland with opposition. In other words, when Brian proved that potentially anyone could reign, it meant that there was a built-in incentive to oppose the incumbent, in hopes of taking his place one day. For the same reason that Brian tried and failed to get national backing for his march on Dublin in 1014, this is because too many had too much to gain from his very demise. So after 1169, the incumbent High King Ruadh Uachtarúr rapidly found out that there was no possibility of a concerted Irish resistance to the likes of Strongbow. And that was an inevitable consequence of the free-for-all that Brian had helped create. Getting sleepy and gonna put you on audio only at 12:30. I hope you have a nice sleep, Dixie, and I hope you have a good lurk. So he's talking about there is Strongbow was the first Norman adventurer into Ireland to set up a presence in Ireland and basically pave the way for what was to become the English occupation in Ireland. It took them a long time. It took them a good amount of time to actually get dominion over Ireland, but that was the beginning. And it's very interesting here that the author is suggesting that because of Brian's actions, in a sense of destroying the tradition of the Unail family having control over the High Kingship, time zone friend, good night. That because no one family were able to really become king without opposition and really cement control over the island, that when the Normans invaded and arrived, there was no unified action against them and allowed them to set up a permanent base in Dublin and later extend to the Pale, which, if you guys, the Pale was basically the region of control that England had for a number of years. And if you guys have ever heard the term beyond the Pale, that something is beyond the Pale, that's where that comes from. It comes from the concept that beyond the Pale, beyond the English-controlled region of Ireland, or savages, was no civilization, or at least barbarians. That's where that comes from. But it's interesting that he ties this kind of political situation that Brian sort of helped create. The enduring reputation of Brian and Clontarf. That's kind of why I mentioned it's so interesting, the what if of that marriage between the Irish and the, I think it was the Swedish king, or Norway anyway. I'm going to take a quick sip of water, because I think I need it. I did slurp. I did a little bit of a slurping. Oh, how many pages do we have actually? Well, we might actually get there. We might finish. We have another 15. I did not gluck guac. The enduring reputation of Brian and Clontarf. Oh, maybe not. Yeah, it's only 10 minutes to 12. Do I leave this for the last? Is this the this is the last section. This is the last section of the book. I feel like I wouldn't. Oh no, sorry. It's only half 11. I thought it was 10 minutes. I thought it said 52. Never mind. We good. We can get a lot done if I read. The enduring reputation of Brian and Clontarf. Brian Boru was not the first High King of Ireland to fall in battle. He was not even the first High King to meet his death at the hands of the Norse opponents. Clontarf may perhaps have been the bloodiest battle that Ireland had ever seen. We simply have no way of knowing, and it is possible that more kings and aristocrats were killed there than in any other previous encounter, although some previous battles could give it a run for its money. Only a decade earlier, for example, the long-forgotten Battle of Craib Tulcha in Ulster left behind nearly as many dead Irish royalty. But it was the Battle of Clontarf that caught the imagination, and even if one believes, as some do, that its hold on the popular imagination is undeserved, and to some extent it is pointless trying to modify inherited memory. For it took hold early. Ooh, that's a big if. Somehow I'm a big delay. Didn't even go through. It's that bad. Oh no. Oh no. Ooh. I don't know why I blocked it, but I like linguistics a lot. Like how the name Floyd is just a mispronunciation of the name Lloyd. It's since a very rare letter called voiceless alveolar lateral fricative. The double L is pronounced lightning bolt. What's that symbol? Hang on. It looks kind of squiggly, so it looked like there was like a little lightning bolt, but I see. Which is produced by placing your tongue in the standard L position and blowing air out the sides of your mouth, creating a hissing or whispered full sound. Floyd. Lloyd. Floyd. People outside Wales couldn't say Lloyd like the Welsh. Oh, I see. Lloyd equals water. I hope someone gets this reference, but I doubt it. I don't. Lightning. It's lightning. Lightning. Yeah, I do think I know. I probably know the sound you're saying because I like listening to Welsh being spoken. You hear a lot of like type of noises. You don't get anything, my boy, but it's okay. I'm sorry. I'm glad it's sorted now. Lasts a lot. Contemporaneous analysts were more loquacious on the subject of Brian's victory and death at Clontarf than their predecessors had been about the great events they observed, and they portray Clontarf in terms consistent with the later popular tradition. It was an immensely bloody battle, much larger than usual. Brian's principal opponents were the Hiberno-Norse allied to Leinster, and it was notable in particular for the great numbers of overseas Norse forces present, and for the huge losses they incurred in the fighting and drowning. And Brian won, even though he died. Chroniclers in Wales and southwestern France were similarly certain that something significant had occurred, and Mariana Scotus, an Irish historian in exile in Germany, for whom Clontarf was no doubt a dramatic childhood memory, may have been the first to home in on the Good Friday connection. Brian, the venerable king, not engaged in worldly combat, but spending the day of battle at prayer, and losing his life as he prepared his soul for Easter. Wait, you're telling us that Brian is no longer with us? You're telling me that Brian is no longer with us? I'm hearing this for the first time. The first time. All I can say, he was a great king. He was a great Irish king. He was a great king, and you can't say more than that. And then Trump walks away and gets onto the plane and salutes the soldier and leaves. Anyway, I don't have a great Trump impression. Hang on, let me try. No, I won't. I'll continue reading. Sorry, that was that. I don't know if that was. I assume that's what you were referencing, Legend, but that was a reference to when I think it was the judge. What was her name? Ginsburg, Ginsburg, something like that. I'm sorry, I don't know. It's been a while. She died, and Trump like walks. He's like going towards a plane, and he's walking towards like a load of cameras, and there's loads of them, and he gets in close. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, that's it. And one of them tells him that she died, and he's like, "You're telling me that that Ginsburg died?" It wasn't, but you appreciate it. I'll explain it real quick. You're telling she's dead? And he like sits back and like thinks, and there's like sad. I can't even remember what music was playing, but it was a very American music was playing in the background, and he was like, "She was a great woman. We may not have disagreed, but she was a great woman, and she will be missed." And then he stands up, and it's like a movie. It's like a scene out of a movie. I'll send it on later. He walks off. The music is playing. He salutes the two soldiers standing at the bottom of the steps into the plane, and then he goes up, and it's just like it's framed like a movie. It's wild. It's one of those moments when you feel like it's like this weird. I can only describe it as a mimetic, as like a meme, mimetic energy of, wow, this is like history. This is like a historical moment. But it's so funny because Trump is clearly bullshitting. He clearly knew she was dead. Because, sorry, I forgot. The funniest line that he said was, "I'm hearing this for the first time. I didn't know. I'm hearing this for the first time." Oh, dude, it's so funny. I'll send it on in the Discord later. Where are we? Wait, there we are. The celebrated epic that tracks the story of Brian and his dynasty's rise to greatness, Coga Gael Rigalav, can hardly have been written much later and springs from a very different milieu, and yet has a similar tale to tell. An elderly king, given over to prayer, losing his life at the hands of Broder in the hour of victory over a largely Norse force, assisted by Leinstermen, who had been spurred into rebellion by Brian's chauvinistic former wife, Gormlaith, who reminded her brother Maelmorda, King of Leinster, of his dynasty's own past renown. Implicitly, for the Coga's author, 2 centuries of Irish opposition to Viking invasion, spearheaded by Brian's dynasty, reached a climax at Clontarf. That picture was imprinted too, with remarkable correspondences on the minds of those 13th century Icelandic writers who compiled their sagas from folk memories and earlier accounts. Those who did battle with Brian came from the Norse world, seeking a kingdom for themselves in Ireland, egged on by Gormlaith, but now only a scorned ex-wife with a hellish fury for vengeance. Brian did not fight because it was Good Friday, but his forces, having put their enemies to flight, met his death at the hands of Broder, a heathen apostate who felled a good and kind Christian king. These are the survivals from the many writings generated by Brian's death at the Battle of Clontarf, and we must believe that they were reflective of prevailing opinion. And that being so, it is easy to see how that process of magnification continued thereafter, how grey areas became blacker and whiter, how complications were ironed out and an increasingly one-dimensional narrative took place, how the contrast between good and evil, right and wrong, Christian and heathen, native and foreign, was accentuated over time. In such a process, Brian's very humanity was in danger of losing out, being replaced by the image of a saint or a superhero or a saviour. This is the Brian of the bardic poets, of the many literary allusions to him in Gaelic verse. No single piece captures Brian, the saint, the superhero and saviour better than the spirited poem that begins, Einar Dwit Avrian Vanda, to you alone, Brian of Ireland, attributed within 2 centuries of Brian's death by the celebrated Neardoch Albánach O'Dalig, possibly written, it has all the ingredients of the lore of Brian that are sometimes assumed to be a product of modern nationalist mythologizing. Brian's superhero status is established in the poem's opening Caedrim, battle career, which lists all his great victories from his youth when he was assisting his brother Mat Gamon in his own confrontations as king, in 977 against the Limerick Norse on Inish Carthag, and then at Caharcuan against the Uacherbra and their Limerick Norse allies. In 978, the Battle of Bailach Leachta fought against his bitter enemies, the Onach the Rathlind, a successful rebuff of Mael Shocknail when the latter attacked Mag Aether in 982, Brian's acquisition of the hostages of Leinster and Osraig in 983, the banishment of the King of Daesh C. Mumon in 985, his victory over the Dubliners at Glen Mama in 999, and the destruction of Dublin thereafter, and his winning of hostages of Connacht and Meath in 1002. Afterwards, quote, the peace of all Ireland was established by Brian, Boru, Sieth Erun Illa Illa, the Rinna Borain Boraim, called here by his famous sobriquet, so that a woman walked from coast to coast without hindrance, and it all culminated in the Battle of Clontarf Ermar Var Beg Nailta, Clontarf on the plain of Mag Aelta. There follows a long litany of Viking depredations in Ireland. A Viking fleet was on Ivory Loch. They had a long fort or ship camp at every dune or fort. Churches everywhere were destroyed, Armagh going without mass for 7 years until Brian came along. Ireland's kings and princes were killed and its women and children enslaved. A Norse soldier billeted on each house, who took even the milk from its cows and levied a tax on an ounce of gold per person on every household. All this is copied from the Koga, or a very similar text, and it tells us nothing new. But the poet now begins to get to his point. It was Brian, he tells us, who put an end to all this. All the Danar, the first time this word meaning Danes is used in the poem, who engaged in these extortionate practices who were felled by Brian. He relieved Ireland's church sanctuaries and instead established a school in every church. There were 2 pairs of men who excelled in coming to Ireland's aid. The first 2 were the legendary Lug Lumfatha and Fionn MacCool. The second pair were St. Patrick and Brian Boru. This is an extraordinary association to make, as much as to say that Brian had done for Ireland rivaled the contribution of its very patron saint. The reason is his conviction that Brian was a kind of martyr, who had devoted his life to defending Ireland from the Gaul, who had been forced to abandon Ireland for fear of him. The Donair had come to Ireland, to Dublin, to slaughter the youths of the Irish, but Brian, the protector of Ireland, had mustered the men of Ireland against them. In the battle that ensued, the nobles of the Irish fell, but they killed the royalty of the Gaul, who had come from the islands of Loch Lomond. Brian's son Merchad killed 106 before he himself was supposedly was slain, and Brian was killed by Broder in the sidelines of the battle, believing in Christ, quote, without sin, sweetly singing his psalter. Remarkably, the poet adds, on Good Friday Brian was killed, defending the hosted Irish, as Christ without sin was killed, defending the children of Adam. So as Jesus gave his life to save humankind, the Brian sacrificed his to save his countrymen. When earlier the poet had seen Brian as something of a new patron saint to rival Patrick, he excels himself in equating Brian's death at Clontarf with that of Christ on Calvary. The consequence of Brian's act was that for a space of 150 years, the foreigners did not inhabit Ireland from then onwards until today. Until the Earl came today. The Earl in question is Richard Fitzgilbert de Clare, better known as Strongbow, and evidently the poet believed that the freedom Brian had secured for Ireland at Clontarf had been lost again on the arrival of a new kind of Gaul, the Anglo-Normans in the late 1160s. From then on, he tells us, there comes a fleet of Gaul every year until they captured Ireland at the peaks. They have possession of the country completely. The poem's pleading message is kept for the last quatrain. When will there come the like of Brian, south or north, east or west, who will protect the Irish against evil, as he alone protected? Cuan Tofcus, Howall Brian, Theas na Huig, Tor na Hair, Nach Forus, Goidil Guiv, Mar the Hor Shun, and Nanner. This, then, is what Brian had become. He is a man who selflessly saved the Irish from foreign opposition, and now that oppressors had returned to Ireland, needed the like of Brian to rise up and, if necessary, similarly sacrifice his life for the sake of his fellow Irish. It must be said that the task of depicting Brian as champion of the Gael was complicated by the fact that he had secured the High Kingship by ousting his predecessor, Mael Shocknail MacDonald, and therefore later writers felt the need to blacken Mael Shocknail's reputation. When Geoffrey Keating compiled his very influential Forras Face and the Heron, Compendium of Knowledge about Ireland, which he completed about the year 1634, he unashamedly asserted that because it was Brian MacCineda who was undergoing the labour and hardship of expelling the Lochlannig from Ireland, and that Mael Shocknail, who was the King of Ireland, gave himself up to luxury and comfort and ease, a line of action that was useless for the defence of Ireland at that juncture. Brian and the nobles who were with him resolved for these reasons to send envoys to Mael Shocknail, King of Ireland, to inform him that it was not right that anyone should hold the sovereignty of Ireland, but one who should devote his energies to banishing the foreigners from the country, and that, as it was Brian who was undergoing the labour of banishing them, it was by right that he should get the sovereignty of Ireland, for having relieved the country from the opposition of the foreigners. Let me quickly plug in the charger for my phone, because it's going to die. Seconds. Should charging for the rest of the stream there now, so we should be all good. Keating then recounts quite faithfully from the Coga, or a very similar text, the story of Brian's negotiations with Mael Shocknail to secure his submission, the conclusion to which was that Brian sent envoys to Mael Shocknail asking him to send hostages to him to Augh Luan, and Mael Shocknail himself and gave his hostages and sureties. It was then that Brian brought together the main forces of Munster, Connacht, of Leinster and of Meath, and he went then with them to Dún Delca. Excuse me, 2 seconds. I'm just gonna move some stuff around. I'm gonna have to be a teeny bit quieter. There we go. Where was I? I was somewhere where he received the hostages and sureties of O'Loyd, and it was in this way that Brian Boru obtained the kingdom of Ireland by the strength and bravery of his feats of valour and championship, driving the foreigners in the Danar out of the country, and not by treachery as others assert. He does not tell us. Is this loud enough? Am I think I'm still talking loud enough. He does not tell us who these others were who asserted that Brian had been a usurper, but it was an allegation he countered as follows. For it was not the custom in Ireland that the son should succeed the father in the sovereignty of Ireland, as is plain from the history up to this point, but the sovereignty of Ireland was given to him who was the most powerful in action and exploit, and since Brian was the most powerful in action of the Irish in his own time, the majority of the nobles of Ireland chose him to be the sovereign of the country. And as many of them as did not consent that the sovereignty of Ireland should be given to him were forced to submit to him against their will, and Mael Shocknail was obliged to abandon the sovereignty of Ireland and cede it to Brian, as we have said. Or if he should be called a usurper for supplanting Mael Shocknail in the sovereignty of the country, having been chosen by the majority of the Irish nobles, let the reader judge whether it was more just to call him a usurper than to call the majority of the kings of Ireland, who sprang from the children of Meal, usurpers. for not one in every 7 of them gained the sovereignty who did not do so by killing the king who came before him, and since they are not called usurpers, being of the royal blood, for killing the king who came before them in the same way, since Brian was of royal blood, he should not be called a usurper, for having supplanted Mael Shachnail, whom though he was in his power he did not kill, as other kings killed those who came before them in the sovereignty of Ireland, as we have said. The writing back then in 1600s were very awkward. Keating works very hard to exculpate Brian, culminating in the accusation that although Mael Shachnail mustered to join Brian in the preparations for Clontarf, he did not participate in the battle because he did not wish to help them, having made a secret deal with the Dubliners. It is a suggestion borrowed from the Coga, which, because of the pervasive influence of Keating's much more widely read work, especially after it began appearing in print and English translation from the early 18th century, has been very compelling in casting aspirations on Mael Shachnail's reputation. In other ways, too, we see the effects of the wide dissemination of Keating's work, the 1723 English translation of which had as its frontispiece of all the many characters from Irish history and mythology sympathetically portrayed in its pages, a ludicrously armour-clad Brian Boru, a point made in passing by the author of the Coga, having been paraphrased in Keating's Foras Faesa, remained emblazoned on the popular mind, so that Brian the warrior king became Brian, patron of the arts. Quote, in the first place, he restored and built churches, and gave every cleric his own temple according to his rank and his right to it. He built and set in orders public schools for the teaching of letters and the sciences in general, and he also gave the price of books and expenses to each one who could not defray the cost, the expenses, and who desired to devote himself to learning. And Keating is the source of the oft-repeated notion that Brian invented Irish surnames. It was Brian, too, who gave the men of Ireland distinct surnames, by which each separate sept of them is distinguished from the rest. It is not true, of course, although one can understand how the idea caught hold. Brian lived through the age when the modern Irish Mac and Ua, or later O, surnames were indeed beginning to take shape. It was a precocious development, and it is not entirely clear why it happened when it did. The probability is that the use of a fixed patronymic in the form A Mac B, A son of B, or C Ua D, C grandson of D, was an attempt by those closest to the reins of power to exclude from succession the lordship and land, more remotely separated segments of the kin group. And if that is so, it is indicative of a society undergoing major and rapid change. Brian's dynasty managed to concentrate power and land in their own hands to such an extent that individuals like Brian and his sons and grandsons, and his brothers and their sons and grandsons, and his cousins and their sons and grandsons, became eponyms from which a large number of lordly and landed lineages descend, and were thus the ancestors of a surprisingly large number of what are common Irish surnames to this day. Is C Ua D a Proto-Irish cease and desist? No. I think we're almost done. Oh, no, we still have oh god, I'm going to be reading for another while. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5. Or no, 7.5. Okay, we get this done, This fed into the theory that Brian invented the whole system, in no less a scholar than Eugene O'Curry, in an influential book published in 1861. Exaggeratedly put it, previous to the time of the monarch Brian Boru, there was no general system of family names in Erin, but every man took the name either of his father or his grandfather for a surname. Brian, however, established a new and most convenient arrangement, namely that families in future should take permanent names, either those of their most immediate fathers or of any person more remote in their line or pedigree. And he gives an account of Brian's extended family, listing, with a number of inaccuracies, some of the most modern surnames that derived from them, as follows. Lochna, Brian's great father, the son of Cork, had a valiant son, Lorchan, a name now anglicised as Lawrence. Lorchan had 3 sons, Kennedy, Coscrook and Bran, and from Coscrook the second son descends the O'Lorcans, or Larkins, the O'Sheans, that's a name I've never seen, the O'Convenes or Bowens, the O'Hogans, the O'Flahertys, those of Thomond, not those of Eir Connacht, the O'Glorans, the O'Aengidis, and the O'Mains. From Bran, the third son, descend the Sliocht Branfin in Dufferin in Wexford, a clan who supposedly took and still retain the name of O'Brien. From Mahon, the eldest son of Kennedy, descend the O'Bolans, the O'Caseys, the O'Shiadachons, the MacInrys, the O'Connellys, and the Toomeys, and the O'Toomeys, and in the country of Limerick. From the great Brian Boru, the second son of Kennedy, descends the O'Briens and the MacMahons of Clare. Donachon, the third son of O'Kennedy, had 5 sons, namely of the name of Kennedy, Riagon, Logran. So it's just a long list of various names that supposedly descend from this group, some being correct, some being not. It may be that O'Curry allowed himself to believe Brian's role in the adoption of the surname system because of the conviction with which Geoffrey Keating had stated the case, and he too had a potent effect on other writers. Keating influenced a vernacular tale about Brian's last battle, known as Cath Cluna Tarv, which is known to survive in a remarkably 89 manuscripts from the 18th and 19th century, and the intertwining of traditions apparent at that stage is evident from the fact that Keating had blended elements from the Coga with English language material then beginning to appear in print. One of these accounts, which Keating may have come across indirectly, in Meredith's Hammer's Chronicles of Ireland, published 1633, in the 16th century Book of Howth, which has the following curious tale to tell. There was a merchant in Dublin, called the White Merchant. He was the king of Denmark's son, and had a fair wife, and he, minding to travel in other realms for merchandise, came to Bren Boru, then chief and principal king of Ireland, and desired the king to take the charge of his wife in his absence, for her beauty was such that he feared all men, which he promised to do in his absence, and so the merchant departed. And while the merchant was in his merchandise, Mork Macbrin Boru, Murchad, son of Brian Boru, the king's son, made suit to her, and won her love, and lay with the merchant's wife. And by chance and fortune the merchant arrived after his long voyage in other realms with 7 great ships, upon the sudden at Ballybeg, by Dublin, Poolbeg, near Dublin, in a great fog and mist in the early morning, and so came to his house and found Mercatoc in bed with his wife. The white merchant went to Bren Boru, the king, to complain. It's all misspelled and stuff, it's funny. To complain and declare to him the trust he put in him, and now he was deceived by his son, and demanded judgment, who willed the white merchant to give what sentence of judgment he would, seeing he was his son. The white merchant said this was his judgment, and none other than he would be in the field of Clontarf by that day 12 months, to fight there a field with Morcatoc, and all of his that would take his part, and there trusted to be revenge on that wrong, and so departed, and went to seek his friends to Denmark, from whence his generation came, and by the day appointed brought a great number of stalwart soldiers out of Denmark, and landed at Clontarf, and there proclaimed a field, and after fought a terrible battle for all the forenoon. The Irish won, and drove the strangers to seek aid to their ships, and found them burned to coals, and when they saw that they returned again to the battle, and so won the field by very force of fight, and killed both Bren, and left his son Murchu for dead beneath the stinking stream, lying upon his shield, to whom came a priest called Sigurd Nefenemy, and asked for his son. The priest's son did confess the treason done, and he was taken and brought to the hill 12 miles from Dublin, called the Wengats, or Windgates, County Wicklow, and there put him in the earth, standing, and there doth it rest to this day, a great heap of stones. There was the end of the field of Clontarf, wherein a soldier of Merchu called Dowling of Hertacana, or Dunlain Hartigan, which that day fought best. The causes that the field was lost. First, the haste that Bren the king made to the field, and did not tarry. I can see why being a historian could be absolutely infuriating. Trying to read some of this with all the different names and the way it's phrasing must be so annoying. And did not tarry till his friends came to his aid, as his sons and others, which came 3 days after with 7,000 men. This great haste and worse speed may be an example to all men. Another cause was that Bren placed his men in this order: the horsemen put on his right hand of his woward vanguard, as nigh the sea as might be. The left wing was kern, and men with slings, spears, and stones, and shields, all naked men. These horsemen was the force of the king's army, and by reason of the slimy and deep ground towards the sea, the horsemen did nothing, being there placed before as their ill fortune was. The king's horsemen stood him in no stead. By reason, therefore, the king lost the field and his life, and 11,000 men and his son. The amalgamation of traditions, Gaelic and non-Gaelic, is striking in this work. Produced by and behalf of Christopher St. Lawrence, 7th Baron of Howth, a member of the Old English gentry of the late 16th century Pale. Clearly, Irish material like the Coga is feeding in somewhere, hence, for example, a reference to an otherworld character called Dunlane the Hartigan, who flits in and out of the Coga's accounts, but is also quintessentially a Dublin version of events, to the extent that it seems in the end that Brian actually lost. This same tradition of a Dublin victory against the Irish occurs in another contemporary work, this time by the Dubliner Richard Stanihurst, and remember at this time Dublin is ruled by the English. In his Description of Ireland, 1577, who has it that it was the Danes of Oxmantown, discomfited at Clontarf in a skirmish diverse of the Irish. The names of the Irish captains slayed: Brian Boru, Meg MacBrien, Tig O'Kelly, Dolan Arhigan, Gael Baramede. These were Irish Pontonites, and before their discomfiture they ruled the rest. They were interred at Kilmainham, over against the great Coss. He too, therefore, imagines this Dunlane as one of the Irish captains killed alongside Brian, Mircud MacBrien and Tig O'Kellig of Uamain, and his unidentified Gilla Baramede is presumably also traceable to Irish tradition, while the belief that they were buried at Kilmainham must have come from Dublin. Meredith Hammer, an Anglo-Western clergyman, who settled in Ireland in the late 17th century and wrote a Chronicle of Ireland, not printed until 1633, expresses doubt about the outcome of the battle, although in the end he opts to follow earlier writers and blame it on an unnamed Gormlaith. Excuse me. Oh my god, it's just loads of like references to these individuals, but we're on the last like 3.5 pages. We're getting there. Let me just check something real quick. Yeah, we good. No, there we go. Bernardus, commonly called Brian Boru, monarch of Ireland, and his son Mercatuk, with other kings of the land subject unto him, gathered great power, and met at Clontarf, nigh Dublin, and gave a sore battle unto Sitric, alias Sutric, the son of Aebloch, king of Dublin, and unto Maelmore, the king of Leinster. This Sitric, to withstand the monarch, has hired to his aid all manners of strangers he could get by sea or by land, as Danes, Norwegians, Scots, Britons, pirates, and sea rovers. The fight was desperate, the field all blood. A horse, they say, was sometimes up to his belly in blood. There were slain that day at the one side Brian the monarch and his son Mircud, on the other side Maelmore, the king of Leinster, Roderick the arch-pirate and captain of the strangers, and others of both sides innumerable. Sitric was some wounded, brought to Dublin, and shortly after died of his wounds. I pray the gentle reader who got by the bargain. I pray the gentle reader who got by the bargain. As fair as ever I could learn, a woman set them together by the ears. What? Strange language back then. Sure, Sir James Ware's De Hibernia et Antiquitabius Eas appeared in 1654 and similarly queries the outcome, presenting the true traditions of Irish victory and Dublin victory, opting for the latter. His account is also notable for its insistence, which would prove persuasive, that Clontarf was in essence an attempt by Brian to banish the Danes from Ireland. About the beginning of the year 1014 or a little before, Brian Boru treated with most of the kings of Ireland to join their forces with him and endeavour the expulsion of Danes as public enemies of the kingdom. Citricus, on the other hand, understanding the design, neglected nothing that might contribute to his defence, and therefore, having made his peace with Maelmorius, son of Merchud, king of Leinster, he procured assistance both from him and from the Danes of the Isle of Man and the Hebrides. Thank you, cats. Or thank you, Sarah, for the stretch and hydrate. I will take that. You can really see that this author did his homework with how much he knows. Whatever about the interpretation of Clontarf as a Dublin victory, which seems to have passed from the pages of history at this point, the emphasis on the expulsion of Danes was firmly fixed. It is there, along with much Keating-inspired detail, in one of the first novels published by an Irish writer, Sarah Butler's Irish Tales in 1716, and belief in it was, for instance, the motivation behind Daniel O'Connell's decision to follow his great monster meeting at Tara in 1843, which was intended to be the climax of his campaign to secure repeal of the Act of Union by one more giant gathering at Clontarf. As one of his early biographers put it, after Tara, several other large demonstrations were held, and was resolved to wind up the series by a final monster at Clontarf. It was at Clontarf that Brian Boru had expelled the Danes from Ireland in 1014. What fitter spot, it was asked, could be found for completing the expulsion of another set of intruders? The meeting was set for Sunday the 8th, October, 1843. People were beginning to flock towards it from throughout Ireland and even further afield, when the government issued a surprise proclamation forbidding it late on the Saturday afternoon because of fears of the explosive cocktail of O'Connell's oratory, a crowd of hundreds of thousands, and a sight so potent in popular imagination as the very field of battle on which Brian had fought and won. For the best part of a century leading to that point, Catholic historians had been publishing narrative histories of Ireland that, unlike Protestant historians from the Anglo-Irish background, who tended to deal with the story of Ireland. For the best part of a century leading to that point, Catholic historians had been publishing narrative histories of Ireland that, unlike Protestant historians from an Anglo-Irish background who tended to deal only with the story of Ireland from the 12th century English conquest onwards, displayed a passionate interest in rediscovering, as they saw it, the glories of ancient Ireland. They therefore made much of Brian, but there was no sectarian difference of opinion on the subject of the Vikings, and given the, by then, near universal belief that Brian had played a part in ending Ireland's Viking tyranny, historians, irrespective of religious persuasion, tended to think well of him for having realized so good a triumph. Still, it is noticeable that some 18th century historians had commented on the shortcomings of the Irish polity in the aftermath of Brian's appropriation of the high kingship, which, depending on their viewpoint, they saw as justifying English intervention, or as an unforeseen flaw that led to a tragic outcome for the Irish nation. And even historians sympathetic to the Irish position could be dismissive of Brian's role, more than a century after Geoffrey Keating's strove so hard to refute unnamed authorities who rejected Brian's high kingship as a usurpation. It is still evident in the pages of the Dissertations on the Ancient Histories of Ireland by Charles O'Connor, which claims that Brian thrust himself upon the throne, although incapacitated by the law, and that the consequences was a period of factious wantonness, so that the Irish gave up their country and liberties. O'Brien even anticipated 20th century revisionist views of Clontarf by asserting that the Great Battle was merely the culmination of a civil war that had been rebellion against Brian by the Leinstermen, the latter merely aided by the Norse. But he was virtually a lone voice. By now the mythic Brian predominated, and no historian of the period captured so graphically the image of Brian the Christian king as Sylvester O'Halloran in his General History of Ireland 1778. He got sight of a work written earlier in the century that is sometimes called the Dublin Annals of Inishfallen, written at the behest of one of Brian's descendants, John O'Brien, Bishop of Cloyne and Ross, with the result that this minor manuscript account has gained immorality in O'Halloran's published words. Quote, Brian rode through the ranks with a crucifix in one hand and his drawn sword in the other. He exhorted them as he passed along to do their duties as soldiers and Christians in the cause of their religion and their country. He reminded them of all the distresses their ancestors were reduced to by the perfidious and sanguinary of Danes, strangers to religion and humanity, that these, their successors, waited impatiently to renew the same scenes of devastation and cruelty, and by way of anticipation, quote, they have fixed on the very day on which Christ was crucified, to destroy the country on his greatest votaries, but that God, whose cause you are to fight this day, will be present with you, and deliver his enemies into your hands. So saying, he proceeded towards the centre to lead on his troops to action, but the chief of the armies with one voice requested that he would retire from the field of battle, on account of his great age, and leave to the gallant Mora the chief command. Mora probably here being Mirkaduk. O'Halloran proved stealthily influential, as throughout the 19th century numerous historians replicated his telling of the story. We see it in such bestsellers as Mary Frances Cusack's Illustrated History of Ireland, while A.M. Sullivan's blockbuster The Story of Ireland outrageously plagiarizes O'Halloran, including his preposterous tale of Brian, the pious prince on horseback with a cross in one hand and sword in the other, urging onwards his Christian soldiers. Needless to say, the internet age has allowed this and many another yarn to leapfrog over all the scholarship that intervened into our living rooms and into our classrooms by way of the benign tyranny of the search engine. A web search for Brian Boru claims to offer 750,000 results and 2/3 for Battle of Clontarf. This battle took place a full 1,000 years ago. Brian is long dead, but the myth of Boat has never been more alive. And that is the end of the book. I think... Oh, hello Yeben, thank you for the first time chat. You just joined as we finished the book reading. Not just stream, but finished the reading of Brian Boru and the Battle of Clontarf. Very good book. I'm glad you enjoyed, Seraph. Let me see what that says real quick. Translate. And I click hello. Hello to you as well. Привет. Привет, Yaban. Hello, hi Triscuits. Thank you for the head pat. Thank you, thank you. Always appreciated. Always appreciated. I am but a weary little guy. Well, Triscuits, I'm really sorry, but I'm also a weary little guy. And I was just about to raid out because I finished the book and now it's time to go EPs. Because I have to be up early, need to rest my head on that rock. You can rest your head on that rock. You can rest your head on that rock. Don't worry, Triscuits. You can get a nice good eep. Let me just... I don't understand a thing. I can't say that part. Yeah, man, I'm sorry, I can't understand a thing. That's okay. That's okay. You don't have to understand anything. Wait, let me see if I can say this. That's okay. You don't have to understand anything. Just enjoy. Oh god, this... Yabam. No, Yeben. Is that Russian? It is Russian. Okay. I'm gonna try and say this. I'm saying that's okay. You don't have to understand anything. Just enjoy. Niczego strasznego tebe nie obязательно что либо понимать. Просто wait. Wait. Let me. Просто наслаждайся. How to cheat in your native language. I'm trying. I did do my best. I tried my best. Did it turn into a novella? Did what turn into a novella? Oh god, I can't move. There we go. Rush Irish. Rush Irish. I'm learning, but I can't read it. Oh, that's really cool, Pip. I hope you're doing well. I hope you do well on your learning. But unfortunately, it is 20 past 12 here, guys. So I do have to raid out. But I do want to say a big thank you to all of you for joining me today. And again, thank you to Spriggan for the raid. How to write in Russian, but I do have the keyboard. Oh, very cool. He's green. Hello, Lila. Hello. Where just woke up. Well, you just woke up to get raided. Huzzah. 6 more hours. I can't. I have to go to sleep. I have to go eepies. Is anyone I know doing ASMR that I can raid into? Don't leave me. I'll cheat on you. That's a fucked up thing to say. Don't raid me. We should raid you. Quick raid. How have you been raiding for so long? I would have been tired a long time ago. I read a lot. And I read so that other people, so that you can be nice and relaxed, sleepy, honk shoe. One of those words will work, maybe. Thank you for stream, though. You're welcome, guys. We're going to hang on. Let me see if there's anyone. Oh, this person. Ooh, I'll definitely cheat on you. Ooh, that's nice. That's nice ASMR. Thank you, Haru, for doing the thingies. I think, Pip, that means Russian, but hang on, I will. Pip, not Russian, learning, beginning to learn Russian. But anyway, guys, it's okay. We're gonna raid off into Bucket Bal BC, who has some very nice whispering. So I will see you guys later. Rev Mila Mahagut and Slán Gafol. See you guys next stream. Bye bye. Oh, I'm sorry, Yevon. I'm raiding. Bye. Bye bye.